Hello everyone and welcome to the closing keynote of SVR 2020. We have the pleasure to have here Lucas Risotto. Lucas is a full-time mad scientist and creator of award-winning experiences. His most popular videos, where he creates a VR time machine, has almost 200,000 views on YouTube, and is one of the best videos I have seen this year. He is more than a digital influencer, he is a technological influencer. His website, Lucas Builds the Future, is a show where he builds insane projects using futuristic technologies. And is followed by thousands of people. It's our pleasure to have Lucas here at SVR, and we will hear his insights about combining design, user experience, and extended reality to push the boundaries of our imagination and create futuristic, immersive technologies. So, Lucas, is with you now.
Hi, everyone. Oi, gente, para os brasileiros que estão aí. I'm actually originally from Brazil, which I'm learning that a lot of people don't know I'm originally from Brazil, but yes, I am, although I live mostly in the United States. So let me just open with that. My name is Lucas Risotto, and I create lots of weird things, everything ranging from virtual reality time machines to augmented reality projects that connect people in strange ways to even many things that have no practical use at all, but they just make me laugh. So I think it's like worthwhile. And just before we go into the whole subject on how to make virtual and augmented reality weird, let me just give you a quick palette, a quick tasting of some of the weird shit that I've been up to. So if we could play the shared screen, I'm about to play some weird clips of some weird things. So starting with the time machine, which was mentioned before, I had an entire wearing cameras on my face and built a virtual reality time machine that lets me relive my past in virtual reality. This is probably the thing that I've done that went the most viral. 5 million people saw it on Reddit, 200,000 on YouTube, and here it is. Of course, it's streaming. Okay, 1 second. So this is just a 15-second snack of what was this insane project. And as another example, just this one I posted just a couple of weeks ago, I created an augmented reality portal that connects my room to my best friend who lives 3,000 miles away so we can hang out during quarantine. And this is what it looked like. And finally, to close this off, here's one of the most useless projects I've ever made. An alarm clock that threatens to delete your files if you don't wake up. It's a new kind of a trauma-based user experience that I've been exploring. So we can go back to my lovely face. So yeah, those are some of the things that I've done in the past couple of years, and it's I'm a creative and I'm all over the place as you can tell, and I have to say from the beginning that none of these projects that I've done had any sort of financial plan behind them. I didn't they have no path to to being a commercial product. They are just weird, and I only made them because I had fun. And if you're a rational human being, you might look at that and, oh, wait, I just saw that you guys didn't have audio. Okay, 1 second. Oh, that's a shame. I'm sorry about that. Audio's the best part. Yeah, I don't see the checkbox to share the audio. Unfortunately. Well, you're just gonna have to trust me that it was funny. In the meantime, because I don't see any options to handle the audio, I'm just going to be continuing from here on out. Um, oh, okay. You can share those videos. Oh, sorry. I'm talking right now with the support chat, but let me just go on with the talk, and we can work on the audio portion later. So I've been doing these projects for the past couple of years, and there's no path to commercialization. I'm just doing because they're fun. And if you're right in your mind, you are probably just wondering, why? Why do I spend so much time doing these things if they make me no money, if they can't be commercialized? It's like, why would any do the stuff that I'm doing? Um, when I could be just working on VR's next rhythm game, because there's so many people working on rhythm games, especially right now. And the reason is that I am addicted weird. Like, I'm actually really addicted. When I put on a VR experience or an AR experience or whatever it is, when I try something that challenges the way I see the world, that makes me feel something new, I get a high. And it's a high that I haven't been able to recreate anywhere else. It's the feeling that your mind has been opened, and now you can, like, every time you look at the world, you see it through a different set of eyes. When you look at yourself, you see it through a different set of eyes. And this, weird projects make me see myself differently. They make me see the world differently. They create conversation between people. And ultimately, I think the weird projects change the world. Because if you think about it, weird projects are nothing but experimentation. And experimentation is the key behind innovation. And innovation is basically what changes the world going forward. So that is the power of weird. And this is what I wanted to focus on this talk. Not only be discussing on how you can make your projects weirder and more innovative, and trying to break down, like, really what is innovate, like how does one attempt to become more innovative, or make someone's, their own work be more innovative, but also, like, what are some of the trade-offs and the risks, and basically it's what are some sacrifices that you have to make. And I'm going to be using my personal career as a reference, but of course, start thinking about questions you'd like to ask me as I go throughout this talk that apply to you, so I can address them at the very end. Okay, and just a disclaimer, I am not a paragon of innovation. I do weird projects, and I think they're particularly unique. But the reason I'm doing this talk is because my projects were extremely boring, like 3 years ago. And I think I've gone through a growth in which I've learned a couple of things that might be useful to you. So plenty of people out there doing crazier, more innovative work than I do. I'm just sharing the thoughts that I've learned that I think have made my work weirder and more interesting, and ultimately, I think, more successful. So a lot of people ask me how I got started in virtual and augmented reality. What's my background, and how did you get started in the space? And the answer is that my background's a little bit of a mess. And a lot of people who are watching in VR and AR also have really messy backgrounds, because there's no straight path to virtual reality. It's like people come from all sorts of industries and disciplines, and they come together into this weird thing called VR, and they just, like, do whatever it is that they want to do. I have a very messy background. I used to work with events and with maps as a cartographer. I used to sell websites from door to door. I have done lots of different things. I never really had a technical background, and I actually had no technical skills up until 4 years ago. And I always looked at myself as a creative person, but when I looked at virtual reality, I always thought that it was completely outside the realm of possibility. After all, it's like, I don't know how to code. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. It's like, it just seemed like something that was completely impossible and completely distant from who I was. So I've been flirting with the idea of VR since I saw the first Kickstarter from Oculus, but I always thought that it would be something that's just I could never learn because I'm a creative. I can't learn technical skills. I don't know how to program. And basically in 2014, 2015, my whole life basically fell into shambles. I lost my business. I lost my home. I had nothing really at some point, at that point in my life. And that's when I decided in December of 2014 to move to New York City and to try to build a new life. Now, that weird thing that I was looking at from a distance, which was virtual reality, I started to consider it for a second, mostly because I had nothing left to lose at that point. It was like, maybe I'll just try it because why not? And that was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Suddenly, I started to see that there's boundaries that I thought that existed between artists and technologists were completely fabricated, that really learning how to code and learning those technical skills is just learning how to use a tool like anything else. And all of a sudden, this whole new world opened before me, because if you're in VR and AR, you understand the sheer possibility space of the kinds of things you can do is tremendous, because all of a sudden you can literally create any sort of experience that does, without having to obey the laws of physics. You can literally make anything appear in the air. And that is a good baseline if you want to do like weird stuff. So basically, I started to teach myself programming. I started to break those barriers that I had in my mind of what the thing that I was, of what I could be. And all of a sudden, this whole world opened before me. And that's how I got in the industry. And I think this comes, I can already start talking about, this is like the first key lesson that I wanted to talk about. When it comes to making VR and AR, like weird VR projects or weird AR projects, or just trying to make things that are weird and more innovative, the first thing that you have to do is innovate yourself. To think outside of the box, you have to remove yourself from the box. You need to break down the idea of what it is that you are, and you need to expand upon it. Teach yourself new skills, put yourself in new awkward situations, play with new technology, expand your understanding of who you are. Because that's how I got into virtual reality. I thought that I could never get into it because this is who I am. These are my skill sets. I could never learn technology. But the moment I did, the world opened, and all of a sudden I could do all sorts of interesting things. So innovating on yourself is really the first step to do more innovative and weirder and more fun projects. So from that point on, I started to teach myself VR and AR, coding, all that stuff. And I started to attend a lot of hackathons. Now, for those who don't know it, hackathons are, caffeine-fueled 48-hour adrenaline rides in which people come together and create an entire technology project within the span of 2 days. And that could be any sort of thing. It could be like a project that solves a problem, or it could be just something that you're doing because you're having fun. Well, I started to going to lots of those, mostly because I was in New York. I didn't know anybody. And so I was trying to network and make friends, but I was also looking for an excuse to make things, because at this point I was doing websites for a living. I did not work in VR, AR at all. I was just trying to learn it. So I started to attend these hackathons, and I started to win a lot of them, because I would start to see what is it that the judges are looking for in terms of projects. And I started to develop my skills, doing better at hackathons, winning at hackathons, building lots of things. Now, there was only one problem, and that is that the projects I was doing were so incredibly boring. I was trying to create, basically in every single hackathon, I was trying to create a startup that solves a very particular problem and has a go-to-market strategy. And that started to get really frustrating after a while, because I didn't really feel any passion for any of the projects I was doing, even though they were winning hackathons. So then at one point, when I was doing this hackathon in Stanford, I decided to try something new. So I had this plan for this project that I wanted to do that was like probably going to win. It was like a baity. It was a project the judges would like. And I was like, fuck that. I'm going to recreate Snake in mixed reality, except the tail of the snake grows out the back of your skull, and you have to climb around furniture, go under tables and stuff. to eat little burgers and grow your tail. And it was just a ridiculous project. And that was, can we switch to the shared screen? I'm not going to play audio in this. I'm just going to talk over it. And that was one of the most fun things I had done in a really long time. It was a ridiculous project called Cybersnake. And here's the little bit. So you collect these little cyber burgers around the room, with your head, and people would actually open their mouths whenever they're eating something. And as you progress through the game, you grow this huge tail that becomes an obstacle that you have to dodge. It's a silly reimagining of the classic game of Snake, but it was incredibly fun to build. And when I posted it online, I saw that it really started to get people excited. Like, people were having fun with the video. They were downloading the app, and I was proud of what I had made. I felt like I made a contribution to mixed reality, because a lot of the gameplay mechanics in this mixed reality game involved interacting with furniture, jumping on couches, going underneath tables, and being like a big child. And I was just happy. And so I decided to go down this road for a while of not making startups and just doing projects that are fun. And okay, this one's going to be really hard to describe without sound. But okay, so this is another project that I did right after Cybersnake, and the idea here is that, like, so I'm a musician, and I do a lot of songwriting personally, and I always thought it would be cool. Can we switch to me for a second, and then we go back to the shared screen? I always thought it would be cool if, whenever I was playing like real life instruments and keyboards and guitars or whatever, if I had holograms around me that would like visually react to the music that I was playing. And there's lots of audio visualization apps out there that you there's lots of ridiculous features such as rainbow fingers, so you can like draw around objects, and they are also audio reactive. It was just a lot of insanity and a lot of fun. And if you could just to compare that with some of the most boring projects of the past, like here's one in which I was really proud of this. It was the first app that I ever made. It was a periodic table in mixed reality, and I thought it was cool. People liked it. But the moment that I posted this, it only took 3 months before someone else made the same thing on the same platform and posted it. And if I look back to these other projects that I had a lot of fun with, both Cybersnake as well as music, no one has done anything close to it since. Now that starts to show something when it comes to like how to make things that are weird and innovative and that have like longer staying power. And that is doing things that are an extension of yourself, doing projects that are a combination of your own interests and your own skills. I have a passion for gaming. I have a passion for play, for climbing on furniture, for acting like a big kid. And as a result, I made this really unique game that is a combination of all those values and all those interests and like my sense of humor. And it made something that's really unique and hard to replicate. And the same thing here in this case with the music app. It was called Music, M-O-O, I don't know why. It was a combination of my interest as a musician and like the mixture of mixed reality and audio and all my collection of interests resulted in something unique that was hard to replicate. And when here, I was just doing a holographic chemistry app for no reason other than I wanted a project that was easy and it seemed like, the future of education. It was replicated like that. So another major tip when it comes to making projects that are weird and innovative is really look for projects that combine your interests, that combine your skills, and they are an extension of you. That is like incredibly, incredibly important. And I think that's what defines like projects that are amazingly unique and are really make an impact on the medium, versus the ones that are like, you know, just are just out there. About this. Okay, I think we're good. Can we go back to just me, not the screen? Cool. And the reason I'm talking about all of this, about focusing on your interests and focusing on your skills, is that this is something that I learned the hard way when it comes to virtual and augmented reality, is that your perspective matters way more than you think. It matters way more than pure technical skill. If you have a unique perspective on things, and just enough technical skill to execute it, your projects are going to be way more impactful to the industry and way more really fulfilling to you as large than anything else. And that's what I wrote. Like that's what I wrote on. My projects were like, the code in my projects was terrible, terrible, terrible code, and it still is. But it's really the perspective that I focus on, and focusing on something that combines all my skills and interests. So really, my like the projects are an extension of me and my worldview and who I am as a person. That's a really big deal, and that's really important. And now I think we can talk about where thoughts go. And I just 1 second. Let me just make sure that we're good over here. Oh, all right. And another like practical, I guess this is more of a practical tip when it comes to making weird things. I've been talking a lot about how inconsistent I am in like I do all kinds of projects, but there is a consistency on the kinds of projects that they are. It's all of them right now, for example, are virtual and augmented reality projects. And that's because I've been focusing on a niche. And this is particularly important when you're starting out. And it was very important to me, is that you want to find a niche that has lots of creative possibilities, but is being ignored. That means that anyone who shows up there with the bare minimum of technical skill and some unique perspective can thrive really fast. So when I, back in 2016, early 2017, I had very little coding experience, but I bought myself a HoloLens, and I decided to only do mixed reality projects for like the next year. And my bet was because I saw that the only people who had Microsoft HoloLenses were like enterprise people. And all their projects, they were interesting, but they were so boring. They were doing like apps for elevator repair, which cool, but it doesn't really connect with people. And all of a sudden I had this playground, which was mixed reality, that everyone was ignoring because the HoloLens, it was cost $3,000, but that gave me the space to play and to be noticed. Because the moment I started doing these projects, people started talking to me. Microsoft started talking to me because someone was doing something fun with their devices. And remember how I talked about how like these projects I'm just doing them for fun, and that they have no financial goals behind them at all? Well, if you keep putting out fun stuff that you love, opportunities will start coming your way. And that's what started to happen. Money started to appear. Even though I was not making these apps to sell them, the fact that I was consistently making stuff that I was passionate about started to gather the public's attention. And I think it culminated in 2018 when I decided for the first time to put on my big boy pants and to create Where Thoughts Go, which was the first major game that I ever made, first major title. And let's switch to the screen here for a second. Oh, I could swear it up. Okay, hold on. I opened the wrong one. And there we go. I know that we don't have sound, so I'm just going to talk over it. So Where Thoughts Go, it's a VR experience, for those who don't know it, set in a universe where human thoughts are little sleeping creatures. So you go into these worlds full of these little bubbles. These are voice messages left by other players who were there before you were. You can extend your hand and touch them to wake them up and listen to the voice messages that others left behind. And to progress in this experience, To go from world to world, you need to put your hands together, give birth to a little creature, speak into it, and leave it behind for other people to find. It's a very intimate and personal VR experience where people share. We can switch back to me, where people share their like their innermost experiences. They talk about their childhood, talk about the first time they fell in love, talk about people they miss. It's really, really personal. And it did really well. I built this experience. I released it at film festivals. Um, and the project, when it comes to critical acclaim, was doing very well. And this project, like when we talked about things being an extension of you, there's something that I've always used to do in the past. And I mean, I don't do it anymore because of it. But I love walking up to strangers at bars and asking them like really personal questions and just trying to build a very intimate connection with someone in a really short span of time. This is something that I've always loved. And I was also at the time processing grief. So where thoughts go basically is that desire that I have to connect emotionally with people translated into a VR mechanic that allows people to do just that. So I was able to combine all of the technical skills that I learned in the previous year, get this big part of me and condense it into an experience, a worldview that others can play. And the result was something that's very unique, mostly because it's inseparable from me. But here's the thing about making weird things, and weird things being the ground for experimentation, and experimentation being itself the grounds to innovation. I unintentionally created the first real form of virtual reality group therapy, completely by accident, by just experimenting, by just doing wild things. And now, like, we're actually talking with a bunch of institutes, mental health institutes, and even cancer patient institutes to create Where Thoughts Go versions specifically designed to cater to the mental health of people around the world. So by doing this art piece, by doing this weird thing that I just thought was really cool and really interesting, these opportunities that I could never have imagined started to pop up. And that's what happens when you start to do weird things. Like, there's two ways, honestly, of like building experiences. You can either sit down, look at the experiences that exist, see what works, and then build something that combines characteristics from all of those experiences. Maybe has some like a new twist, but it's mostly trend based. And sometimes it works. If you look at something like Beat Saber, it's really a combination of Fruit Ninja and Audio Shield, which are two VR games that were released in 2016. It's literally those two games combined, and it worked very well for them. Or you can do the other way, which is requires a leap of faith, which is just looking for things that you're really passionate about and playing. Just go play and see what pops out. And if you keep doing it enough, and if you do it with some form of pragmatism and focus, opportunities that you never thought could appear start to appear, and things start to get really interesting. Now, so the cool thing about Where Thoughts Go is that there was a niche community that loved it. It was doing well at festivals. It won a bunch of awards, which was helpful because I was trying to get a visa at the time. But there was one problem. It didn't do so well commercially. It did well enough that I can still sustain myself, on the Quest specifically, but nothing like something like Beat Saber. And I was looking around the film festivals at the time. You have so many experiences that are so weird and so unique. It's like the kinds of things that you try them out once and you just can't think about VR the same way again. But they were all facing the same issue. It was really, really hard for them to get noticed, for them to get seen. And that's because of story. You see, when Beat Saber came out and it exploded, the analogy everyone was using to explain Beat Saber was, it's Guitar Hero combined with Star Wars. You're not sure exactly what this adds up to, but in your head it's awesome and that it's something you want to experience. Other major VR titles, like Arizona Sunshine, it's zombie apocalypse in virtual reality, super hot. Time only moves when you move. It makes you feel like Neo. All of these great projects have really strong one-liners. They have a story that's really condensed and really simple to understand. And Where Thoughts Go, as well as a bunch of other creative projects, don't. It's cool, but it's too abstract. when I say like Where Thoughts Go is a social experience where you can listen to the thoughts of other people. That's nice, but it doesn't connect with people emotionally, like very, it's not visceral. You know, you can understand it and be excited by it, but it's not visceral. And that's when I started to think about like story of like, okay, so if story is that important, how do you create projects that are good stories? And or better yet, is the story more important than the product? Now that's something that I asked myself. I'm gonna ask if we can play, just if we could play, guys, just the first 1 minute and 20 seconds of this video that I'm gonna be sharing on the screen. If you could play, because I think the audio is really important. But just in a second, let me just give you a second for this. So for 3 months, I decided to do something weird. I was going to stop building VR and AR apps, and I sat down for 3 months and I built a VR product that would never be released, and specifically so I could make like a documentary about it. I was going to focus entirely on the story to see if the story matters more than the product itself. So I sat down and I created the world's first real life time machine, which to me was like, you know, a very spicy story. I condensed it into a one-liner. I would tell it to strangers at bars and on the street, and they would all get excited, which is a really good sign. Then for 3 months, I made this 30-minute documentary, and I'm just going to show you like the intro of it. So roll the clip.
Can we build a real life time machine? That is the question I asked myself 2 years ago. And the answer is hell yes! Oh! Look at that! Look at that spoiler! Oh my god! Yep, for the past 2 years, I've been working on a real life time machine. And I know that right now you have lots of questions, such as, who's that guy? Why does he have a box on his face? And also, how? Now, the truth is that we can't build a time machine that lets you go back in time and kill Hitler. I tried that. That's very hard. What we can do is build a personal time machine, a virtual reality invention that lets you go back in time to re-experience your memories from the past. And the way we're gonna do it is simple. For 1 year, I will wear a camera on my face, recording my life day in and day out for 365 days. And then, using the power of virtual reality, we'll create an immersive time machine simulation that lets me go back to any date that I want to see through younger eyes again. Today, we're gonna build this project together as I do my best not to completely lose my mind. Welcome to Lucas Builds the Future.
And pause. All right, thank you so much for helping with this. So yeah, I put the video out there. It was a huge gamble and it did very well. It went viral on Reddit. Like 5 million people saw it on Reddit, 200,000 people saw it on YouTube. And I got a very strong signal that they're really, that by conceptualizing the project with the story from the beginning, right? It's like, you're able to create something that really resonates with people and really like makes them interested and makes them emotionally invested. And here's the thing with innovation, with making weird things that matter. When it comes to innovation, if a tree falls and no one's there to hear it, the tree hasn't fallen at all. Not only we have to make projects that are unique and push our understanding of the medium and create new language, projects that are like worth making, but we also need to display them in a way that it connects with people, that creates conversation, that creates even controversy when it's warranted. But we need to package that innovation in a way that matters. And that is one of the hardest things about honestly doing innovative things that matter. It's like, how do you get it to connect with something that people really care about? But it is, I think it's honestly, if you want to make weird things in VR and AR, like weird innovative projects and get them seen, it's something you have to think about from the very beginning. And now I'm going to be posting the third. I don't know if this is going to work. That's the thing with what I'm doing. I've done 2 videos. Now I'm doing a third and a fourth and a fifth, and I'm going to do this for a year to see how it plans out. But the initial results are really promising, and I am ready to see where this goes, because remember what I said about combining skills and combining your interests to make sure that you're working on a project that only you could make. Oh, actually, I didn't talk about this. So I did talk about combining interests and skills, but what basically I'm doing with this YouTube show is that I'm getting my interests of filmmaking and storytelling, and just adding it to all of the technological skills I've been developing. So it's really like just a Lucas soup. That that sounded terrible. And ultimately, I think by doing this, you end up doing projects that only you can make. If I sat down and I didn't create the series, no one else would. If I didn't create the projects that I'm doing, no one else would, at least in the way that I did. And I think that's how you're onto something. And I think that's how you make projects that matter. And and by the point you start to create things, after a couple of years of doing this, like I have, hopefully at this point you start to develop an audience, people that are watching you do your dance, or people that are watching you play your music and the sound of it. And that's when it's really important to make sure that you cultivate those people, cultivate the community that's following you, that's supporting you, that's excited about your work, and get them involved financially. So I've been focusing on my Patreon lately as really the key thing that financially supports me. If we could share the screen just for a second, that would also be very helpful. And it's been, I started a Patreon not thinking that a lot of people would support me, but now I have like over 70 members and over $1,400 a month coming from patrons alone. And I encourage you to join as well if you like any of the work that I'm doing. And this has given me really all the flexibility that I need to do weird shit that makes no money. So that's honestly what this is about for me. It's being able to do whatever projects I think are the most innovative and weird and interesting without thinking about money. But also know, can we go back to me for a second? That if you just keep doing weird stuff that you love, money will appear. But you do need to take a leap of faith. You do need to, you do need to perform a leap of faith. And you do need to take this risk. So just to encompassing all of the lessons of the story, because I know that we went down many different roads, focus on innovating yourself. Push the boundaries of who you think you are first, because that just completely changes how you look at the world and what you're capable of. Have fun, relieve yourself from pressure, play with things. Don't try to make things that are companies, just try to make things that you're passionate about. Focus on projects that benefit from your perspective, that benefit from your skills and interests, and that other people would not make if you were not around. Find a niche that people are ignoring, like I did with mixed reality. That's the best way to get a lot of attention early on. Think about the story that your project and your innovation represents from the beginning. This is going to help it connect emotionally with people. Nurture an audience and get them involved financially. That's really important. You want to be able to do weird things. You need people to support you financially, regardless of what it is that you're doing. And if it ain't broke, break it. When I started started telling people that I was going to do a YouTube show about creating weird things with weird tech, everyone thought I was stupid. And that's because I was already doing well with Where Thoughts Go. I was doing well creating these titles, and all of a sudden I'm going to do a fucking YouTube show? That seems dumb, but I was doing it precisely because I wanted to push myself and I wanted to challenge myself and I wanted to put myself in a new scenario. And if you're always doing that, you're going to grow in really unexpected ways and you're going to surprise yourself with what you're able to do. And ultimately, that's what I wish more people would do. Weird projects change the world. Make your projects weirder. Grow. Try to grow as a creator and just like grow as a person. I think it's just like this growth mindset's really beneficial for everyone, but especially the VR industry, because VR is a medium about perspective, and the more reliant on your perspective a project is, the better it will be. So I went a little bit over time. I would like to thank you guys for your time, for hanging out with me. I apologize for some of the audio problems that we had with the videos, but I think we came out okay. I would love to answer questions now. And yes.
Yeah. Okay, Lucas.
See how we can apply this to your own stuff.
Yeah, it was very inspirational talk, like this idea of weird stuff and experimenting on things. It leads to innovation. It really like a very inspirational line of thought.
Yeah, all things that are normal today were really weird at some point, like online dating. Dating on your computer in 1995 was the creepiest thing. Now it's really the #1 way people meet each other.
Yeah. So really, like, really inspirational. Uh, we have time for just a couple of questions. So I will start with a question from Tiago Porcina. He said, Lucas, first of all, excellent presentation. We have experienced a strong trend in cooperative and multiplayer experience over the past few years. In VR context, what do you think about cooperative or multiplayer virtual reality experience evolution? Uh, will we have multiplayer games as the fiction movies like Ready Player Number One in the future?
Okay, sorry. It's like just to make it clear. So it was asking about the evolution. What do I think about the evolution of multiplayer games going forward in
Yeah.
virtual reality? Okay, so here's the thing. There seems to be this consensus in the virtual reality industry that the multiplayer metaverse is going to look a lot like Ready Player One, and you see this mainly if you look at every single major VR social app. They all work fundamentally in the same way. It's a theme park where you hang out with people, and you have your own avatars, you have your own activities, but they all work the same way. I think that's really, I think that's the first sign that everyone's getting something wrong. The moment when something as weird and new as virtual reality appears, and then everybody agrees on the same idea of what this like future of social interaction is, I think that's the biggest sign that someone's missing something. So I don't think it's Ready Player One at all. I think it's actually going to be something that's um, unintuitive right now, but something that will make sense in the future. Because also, like with the early days of the internet, the same kind of thing happened. It's like it's people had an idea of what the social internet was going to be, and then innovations like discussion boards started to appear, which initially were very strange, but they started to catch on, and then we discovered the feed, and now we have like the modern social internet, but it is nothing like we thought it was going to be. We got it wrong most of the time in the beginning. So I think the fact that we all think it's going to be like Ready Player One is the biggest sign that it won't be. If like we're missing innovation in the multiplayer space, and I think the biggest example of that is like where thoughts go right now is the only asynchronous social network in virtual reality. And by asynchronous is like you post content and content is consumed later. In VR, all social interactions are synchronous; they happen in real time. And if you look at the internet, it doesn't work. This is synchronous right now, this live stream,
Mhm.
but email, social media, almost all of our communications lines are asynchronous. So virtual reality, everyone in social VR, multiplayer VR is going down synchronous multiplayer, which the internet tells us it's not how the world works. And everybody seems to have a Ready Player One, the sci-fi vision of what the future is, without making, I think, enough experimentation to find out, is there another way that's not just this obvious thing that everyone's going after? So yeah, what I think is going to be, it's going to be something that's initially unintuitive, asynchronous, um, and yeah, if everybody agrees on something as big as social VR, there's something wrong. So I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be like Ready Player One at all.
Yeah, think outside the box, right? So if everybody's thinking the same thing, we are all inside the box, right?
Yeah, yeah, that too. But also like looking at the
Hmm.
internet and seeing like, okay,
Yeah.
like we have chat rooms before we had discussion boards with the internet. Why did discussion boards replace chat rooms? Because they were asynchronous and because they were like information content builds over time and it can be consumed at
Hmm.
any time. And then discussion boards evolved into modern social media. So now in VR, it's like we're making the same mistake. We're just everyone in a room talking, and then we're gonna be like, but wait, that means that the conversations exist and they disappear in the air, right? There's no content doesn't build over time. So yeah, I think we need to figure out what's asynchronous social VR looks like, and I think that's definitely the way.
Yeah, we have another question here for Gandhi Alma. He asked, can you talk about the possibilities of people with skills on computation and arts to be a gamer professional, but that people are not so young? Is it really possible to migrate and work with?
I mean, absolutely. Yeah, it's again, it's just like learning a tool. And um, so, and in your case, it seems like you said you already had like skills in the computational arts. So you already have something like a lot to work with. Now, I guess I could say that I was young, like when I started this teaching myself programming, I was 25. But I also thought to myself that um, I literally thought that you're either a hacker when you're 12, or that's it, right? It's too late. So it took me a long time to realize that it's like, wait, this is something that I actually can learn. And really, what you have to do now that you're like you have skills, but all you have to do is just update them to new tools and to new technologies and to like new ways of thinking, which is arguably easier. Actually, it depends, right? But it's just you just have to adapt those skills to the modern day tools and conventions. And yeah, it's important to understand that you do need to believe that you're capable of doing something before you try to achieve that thing. And ultimately, these are just tools, and we can learn tools. Humans have built and learned tools like since forever. So yeah, the age thing is a hard one to wrap around to go around, but it's all psychological. It's really all in your head, up to a degree, of course. As we age, neuroplasticity and all. But the important to know is that most of the barrier is psychological. Most of the barrier is you trying to stop yourself from even trying to do something. And yeah, that's the first thing that we all got to do. Let's remove that.
Yeah, we have another question here from Marsupion. He asks, have you ever tried to build VR environment with smell and touch? And I'd like to add to this question, because in your video about the time machine, you mentioned that you were able to remember the smell of things that you smell for the first time, to remember that in the time machine. Did one of these senses, besides vision, did you experience that more in your time machine besides vision? Like, okay, I really feeling the smells again. Like, I'm really there.
Yeah, this is really hard to describe, and I actually it's so abstract, but I will attempt to do it. Um, it's so you know I think people understand that if you go back to your home, like to your childhood home, and you smell, like a food that you used to eat as a child, all of a sudden you're rushed with memories from that time period, right? That's because memories are deeply associative. The moment patterns associated to a certain memory, like set of memories, fire, a bunch of other synapses fire as well. And what I was getting with the time machine is that when I would enter certain worlds, when I would enter certain memories, and I would see from my perspective and hear things from my perspective, and I wasn't that immersive through the environment, um, this, so the memories are displayed in this portal, right? So what would happen is that the portal would not be there anymore, and it would sort of like expand, and I would see the whole thing in extreme detail. And what's happening, and like even like go as far as to smell certain things. And what's happening is that the visual and the audio content is so similar to the synapses that were firing the moment the memory was created, that they are creating this chain reaction in my brain in which the smells and the sounds and everything is just coming alive, and you really go back in time just for a second. This is a really intense and really strange feeling that you cannot replicate in video, but I think it shows that really there's so much you can do in this space. I haven't done the actual experiences that involve smell and touch. At most, I have done experiments in which you can. So I realized that it's like when you're doing hand tracking, there's no haptic feedback, right? You're just interacting with the air. But I have learned that if the world physically responds to your hand super accurately, and if the sound design is just right, your brain will create phantom feelings of touch. So you can design physical feedback just by designing the visual and the audio interaction so well that your brain fills in the gaps, and it's like your brain makes you feel something when it's not there. So there's a lot about suggestive touch and suggestive smells. And I think the example of the time machine was also like a time, me re-experience my memories from my perspective to a certain to such high degree of fidelity that the smells and anything I was feeling in my hands would suddenly come back to me as well. There's a lot of neuroscience, crazy neuroscience you can explore in VR that you just learn like accidentally, which is really cool.
Okay, that's great. So we are really out
think
of time.
that's my
There's
answer.
more question here, but I'm gonna wrap that questions and I'm send to Lucas. So if he has time, he will like try to answer that questions for you. But thank you very much for your talk, Lucas. It was really inspirational, and yeah, it was great to see all the stuff that you are doing.
Okay. Yeah, it was so I just now saw that there's a comment section. I had the private chat open this whole time, so I'm sorry I missed your comment. But yeah, I would contact me on Twitter and Instagram. My handle's on my name. I would love to answer your questions after and help out in any way that I can. Um, Rafael, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk here. I hope this was fun for you as well, and everyone in
Yeah,
SVR. This is an amazing event, and I'm so glad that I was able to be here, although my connection is not that great. But yeah, thank you again, everyone, and just keep making weird stuff.
yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, bye.